Well, hello, and welcome to the PJH Writing Command Center for another podcast episode from God Bless the Keg Publishing LLC. And we are just thrilled you're here to join us. I am John Hausleben of God Bless the Keg Publishing LLC. I am your podcast host. I'm the flagship author, chief photographer, music reviewer, music critic, do everything guy here at God Bless the Keg Publishing LLC with just a little help from my friends. And my friends are here today, and I've had plenty to cheer about. We just finished watching the Olympic hockey, the men's hockey game versus Canada, USA versus Canada for the gold medal. Absolutely thrilling game. Oh my goodness gracious. Congratulations to the men's USA hockey club for, I guess they're not a hockey club. I guess they're a hockey team for winning the gold medal. Congratulations. And congratulations to Canada, too, for winning the silver, and Finland for the bronze. I'd be happy with a silver. And congratulations to the women's USA team, too, for winning the gold medal against Canada, too. So, wow, my goodness gracious, all kinds of fantastic sports, a fantastic weekend. Congratulations to everyone that won a gold medal there. And we're just thrilled you're here to join us. If you are a first-time tuner-inner, if that's even a word, then welcome. If you're a long-time listener, a follower, a subscriber, then welcome back. And we're here today in the PJH Writing Command Center. And today is very nostalgic. It's very emotional. But before we get started on the podcast episode, let's get our little Orphan Andy decoder pins out, because we have a word from our proud sponsor, and I have to rattle the papers in the background for dramatic effect. But actually, I have to rattle the papers in the background because I have to find the copy. Here it is right here. We have a lot of things going on. This podcast is proudly sponsored by Corporate Facilities Group Incorporated, the leader in technical consulting, facilities maintenance, facilities management, and operations, as well as property maintenance and management services throughout America. And now, CFG Incorporated is proud to announce a new department, a new initiative, headed up by the amazing Mr. Steve McMillan. And let's give it up for old Steve Aruski. Steve's a great guy, and he brings as many years of experience as he manages pre-construction services and estimating for residential development, residential renovations, and light commercial projects for CFG Incorporated. So, before you spend big bucks on a project, let old Steve Aruski check out the contractor scope and price to make sure your hard-earned money is going in exactly the right place. Check them out on the web at www.corporatefacilitiesgroup1.com. That's www.corporatefacilitiesgroup1.com. And many thanks to Lydia, Steve, Liliana, Summer, the dog, and Smokey, the kitty cat at CFG Incorporated for sponsoring the podcast. We love you guys. You're fantastic down here in beautiful Marietta, Georgia. Yes, indeed. And we have a special announcement here today sent in. Ironically, talk about hockey, and it's everything is. And this podcast episode comes on the heels of the Hockey Memories, the Geyer Street Gardens podcast, and we'll get into that. But wow, the emotions, and this one comes from my old hockey coach, Coach Ray. What a wonderful man, a great American patriot, Vietnam veteran. Wonderful human being, a great New York Rangers fan, great hockey coach too, and Mr. Hockey in New Jersey. And Coach Ray, we love you, and thanks for sending this in. And at the Butler High School in good old Butler, I guess maybe it's in Bloomingdale. No, I think it's in Butler High School, and they have this amazing monument, the Butler High School Veterans Monument. And believe it or not, they have 2,858 veterans enshrined on this monument at the Butler High School commemorating veterans. Isn't that amazing? And they have another bunch of names that have to be verified, bringing the total up to about 3,000 Butler High School veterans honored. Well, they need a little maintenance. They need some stones repaired around the flagpole and some topsoil and some weeds taken care of and some new planters. And they're looking for donations, some new plant material. Got to get it all snappy and fixed up. And that's a fantastic thing. Wow. My goodness gracious. So many veterans attended Butler High School. Something to be proud of. But if you would like to make a donation, you can send a check to the Butler High School Veterans Monument. Mailing address is Butler High School Veterans Monument Fund, Post Office Box 274, Bloomingdale, New Jersey, zip code 07403. And this is a figures 501C, like Charlie Group. And all documents, deposits, billing, and receipts are available on demand. It's a not-for-profit. The Butler High School Veterans Monument, commemorating almost 3,000 Butler High School veterans. It's amazing. Reminds me of a story I wrote, The Row of Honor. It's in a military collection, which I think is out of print now, but I think we republished that in the Best of the Flashes, and it commemorated a fictional town in New Jersey that had so many veterans, and a really cool story. But this reminds me of that. Butler High School, amazing amount of veterans. Anyway, Butler High School Veterans Monument Fund, Post Office Box 274, Bloomingdale, New Jersey, 07403. Thank you so much, Coach Ray, for bringing that to my attention. Fantastic stuff. Thank you so much. And if you have a not-for-profit, a charity, a special event, your own veterans monument, you would like Paulie to mention it on the podcast, then please send it ahead to me. God bless the Keg Publishing at gmail.com. godblessthekegpublishing@gmail.com, and I'll be more than happy to squeeze it in on a podcast. Just keep in mind it is a weekly podcast. Watch the timing of your event and send it in accordingly. Thank you. So I mentioned hockey and this fantastic Winter Olympics and everything. I finally got a chance to tune in. I watched the whole men's hockey final. It was on the regular TV. I just needed my old antenna, and that was just a thrilling, wonderful event to watch. I really enjoyed it. Don't get to see too many live hockey games because most of it was on the streaming services, like I mentioned in my previous podcast, but this one I watched start to finish. It was very exciting to win in overtime, and they go down to the 3-on-3. I'm not so sure I like that. I mean, you know, in a game like that, I think you would keep it to even sides, but it is what it is. I'm not going to go into any kind of crazy rants about it. I'm going to talk about hockey. I'm going to try and get my buddy Frankie T back and talk about hockey and the NFL, but that's down the road. But my goodness, such a busy weekend, busy week in the rearview mirror, in the windshield, a busy week coming up. So I'm lucky to squeeze this podcast in right after the hockey. We're not going to talk about Nottingham Forest and Liverpool. That match, it just ended a little bit. Oh, my goodness gracious. My nerves. Anyway, we're going to skip over that. But this weekend on the ham radio bands, we have the American Radio Relay League DX contest on Morse code, and Paulie was up late last night tuning the bands and making contacts with my powerful, not so powerful peanut whistle 5 watts into the famous rain gutter antenna. And we had a blast working a bunch of Caribbean stations last night. And a handful of South American, Central America was coming in, and Europe. So that was fun. It was just one thing after another this weekend. And now, of course, we got the winter storm. We've got this nor'easter coming up the coast, and the weather. I think, you know, maybe they tuned into my weather sensationalization overhype podcast, because the weather folks, either that or they're just tired of this at this point, because the sensationalization seems to have calmed down quite a bit, or it might just be me weary of it all. I don't know, but they got a big nor'easter coming, and I got a chat up into Connecticut later on. Already texted with my sister in South Jersey, and they're hunkering down. And as it goes with these nor'easters or these bomb cyclones, oh my goodness, very, very precarious track. So they don't know what's going to happen. And here in Central Virginia, it seems to be a low event, although they change the forecast every hour on the hour. So we'll just see what happens. I mean, you just got to see what happens. But at any rate, here we go. So I want to thank everyone, and I mean everyone, who commented and sent in notes, gave me a phone call, sent me a text, emails, on the social media posts, on the link for the podcast. A fantastic amount of comments on the Hockey Memories Geyer Street Gardens podcast of last week. And it really stirred up a lot of emotions. Of course, on the heels now, or I guess on the forefront of the women's hockey team and the men's hockey team, USA, winning both gold medals in the Olympics. It seems very timely. That podcast was very timely. And I really, truly thank everybody. And I tried to answer everyone that chimed in there, some of my old hockey buddies, some of the old hockey players from the Haledon Hockey League, and some other folks, old friends from the neighborhood gave me a call about a bunch of different things. And it was really a very touching week to hear the impact that the podcast made on a lot of folks, me sharing the memories. And as these things often go, it's funny in my life, and it's, like I said, it's been so busy this week, and yesterday was crazy. It got away from me, but it was really, really nice to chat with some folks that I haven't spoken with in a long time, either by keyboard to keyboard, or actually chatting on the telephone. It was wonderful, and I appreciate that. And we've just finished the artwork. We got the artwork back for Quest for Good, a story of hope and joy, my latest novel. It was a little delayed from the artist. We had to tweak the design a little bit here and there, but I'm very, very happy with it. Folks did a wonderful job. Thanks to Marta out there. She's a great person to work with. Really love it. Thanks once more to my advisor on this novel, Amber, and Amber also did the beta reads. It's just been such a fun project to work on, and novels are just so grueling. And this one was a pleasure. It really was. We've got down to the final nuts and bolts now. I just ordered up from the printing a proof copy and just going to take one last looky at it. But I love the cover art. It was a fantastic job, and we're thrilled. So we set because we were a little delayed, we set the release date for the 17th of March, 2026. St. Patty's Day. I figure, why not? Dual celebrations, right? Just another reason to have a few pints. So when we missed the original target in the first week of March, I looked down the calendar. I said, okay, I need this time, and let's go with the 17th, St. Patty's Day. So that's the release date. God Bless the Keg Publishing LLC put the ebook on the big internet shopping machine on a pre-order, which is kind of fun. So might be at a little reduced price there. If you want to if ebooks are your thing, you want to grab an ebook copy and reserve it at the lower price. So we're very excited. A Quest for Good, my new novel, a story of hope and joy, a feel-good novel. Release date is all set, 17th of March, 2026. And we're very excited about that. They're very well behaved today. So, like I said, very emotional week, very busy, and everybody chiming in, and one conversation leads to another. It's amazing how this stuff happens in my life. And we had a lot of crazy events and all kinds of things, but we had one traumatic event that happened. And I'm very much a creature of habit. When I come home from work, I wear these work boots. You know, my primary source of income is I can get a little messy at times. And then I'm very regimented, and I'm basically kind of sort of like an old hippie. And I have my Jethro Tull records and my Yes and all my music that I listen to. I want to talk about music. Right at the end of the podcast, I'll mention what I've been spinning in the writing command center. But anyway, my go-to footwear is an old pair of moccasins. And yeah, I love them. Little fringe around the edges, and I've been having them on these old feet for, oh gosh, I guess this pair of moccasins has got to be 8 years old. There's nothing like a pair of moccasins. They conform to your feet. I can wear them outside. I wear them inside, but that's my go-to footwear when I take off my work boots and I want to relax and I'm really not going to go anywhere. So I strapped on the moccasins during the week. And this is right after the podcast, you see. This is right after the Geyer Street Gardens and chatting with all my old friends. And this is going to lead somewhere, folks, I promise you. And I go to lace up my moccasins, and one of the leather laces snaps and breaks. And I only got this little miniature amount of lace to tighten my moccasins. I'm like, And I thought I had an extra leather pair, which would of laces, which would probably be all old and dried up anyway. But I searched around in the cupboards and I couldn't find it. So I said, okay. Well, I guess I gotta pick up a new pair of leather laces. So I'm gonna smack the desk here at the Writing Command Center for dramatic effect. Do you think you can find a pair of shoelaces these days? I went to the food store. I went to the corner. It's not the corner drugstore. The mainstream drug store. Nobody has. Not only don't they have shoelaces, they don't have the leather laces at all. So I went on to big internet shopping machines and I found some there. They're like 10 days away. 10 days to get a pair of leather laces. And I tried the hardware store by chance. The guy just looked at me like I was nuts. And you can't buy, you mean to tell me you can't buy shoelaces anymore? I couldn't find a pair of shoelaces. So anyway, I'm going to tie this back to Geyer Street Gardens because I had a great conversation on the social media with Jeffrey. And if you did listen to that podcast, you know that Jeffrey was kind of the person that started the whole hockey wave in the old neighborhood. And we went to the North Haledon 5 and 10 to buy our hockey sticks. And I thought to myself, my goodness gracious, there's not a 5 and 10 anywhere to be found anymore. Not around here. Maybe in other areas there are. And you could go to the 5 and 10 and virtually buy anything you wanted. The ladies would go there for sewing supplies. We bought hockey stuff there. They had little toys and gizmos and gadgets and you name it. It was at the 5 and 10. And I don't know. It tied together. I thought to myself, yeah, the 5 and 10 would have had these dopey leather laces that I have to go now onto the internet and spend a fortune to get some dopey laces delivered to me. And I thought about it. And I said, oh my goodness, we were talking about the Rated series in the Mailbag podcast a few weeks back. And folks asked me if I'm ever going to expand the Rated series like it did during the Christmas to rate the Christmas Carol versions. And I thought to myself, you know, it's not just 5 and 10s that I miss. I miss a lot of retail stores that have disappeared and gone away, never to be seen again, and missed terribly. and I guess you can kind of predict that a 5 and 10 will be in there in some way, shape, or form. But my goodness gracious, it became very emotional on the heels of all these other emotions going on this week with the hockey and the podcast about hockey and all these things. And then breaking my leather laces on my moccasins. I'm sitting here right now at the Writing Command Center at the podcast console. My ham radio's on my left. The software is on the front. The soundboard's in front of me here on my right. And the microphone here. And I'm sitting in my moccasins that are unlaced on my left foot. And it's bothering me. So here we go. This is a Rated series on Paulie's 5 and some on-mentions, most missed defunct retailers of all time that have disappeared off the face of the earth. And yeah, I'm a little eccentric. So here we go on an on-mention. And I guess this one is because of my electronics, my love of radio, all those things. And I struggled with this on-mention here because you had a lot of different things going on in my mind that were tied to electronics, ham radio and Citizens Band radio. Remember CB radio? And all these fantastic electronic stores that disappeared off the face of the earth. Well, I finally narrowed it down, and because they were on Broadway in Fair Lawn, New Jersey, I narrowed it down. On mention is Heathkit. Now, Heathkit was just kits. It was electronic kits. And you bought the kit, and some of them were very simple. You had to assemble the electronics and solder them and put them together, and they had these fantastic instruction manuals. And I saved my pennies from my paper route and mowing lawns and shoveling snow and doing all the things I needed to do to get my money together to buy my first 2, a shortwave radio kit, and then my first 2 ham radio kits, transmitter and a receiver, separate transmitter and receiver, when I was a novice way back in 1970. I was just a little kid, and I managed to qualify for the license, and I bought an HR-10B from Heathkit, and a DX60B was the transmitter. The HR-10B was the receiver, DX60B was the transmitter. And these were old tube electronics. And here I am, a dopey kid, but luckily my old man helped me. The great Uncle Ed, my beloved Uncle Ed, was in the electronics business, and he helped me and taught me to solder. These were fantastic educational things. And it was all I could afford at the time, but they were quality pieces of electronics. And I started with a relatively simple kit with the shortwave. My dad helped me build that one. And then I graduated to these. And at the time, you used to get the catalog, the paper catalog. You'd send away for the catalog. And I remember drooling over these. And once I qualified for my license, my ham radio license, I ordered them. And then we went over to the store in Fair Lawn and picked them up. And I built the receiver first because I was still waiting. I passed the exam. And I'll tell the story of that with the great Whiskey Alpha 2 Delta India Golf, the Digger, WA2DIG. Legendary ham radio operator in Haledon, New Jersey, who actually gave me my novice exam. And I passed the exam, but you had to wait for the license to come. In the meantime, I built the receiver. But my goodness, were Heathkits a fantastic way of life. They taught you about electronics. They taught you about tools, and they taught you about how to put things together. They were reasonably priced, and it was just a fantastic retailer. And they had a motto, "We won't let you fail." I can imagine they probably had to resurrect some butchered up electronics that guys and gals tried to put together and couldn't get them to work. But the step-by-step instructions were fantastic. And I went on later to build many Heathkits. I remember I dated a gal, and her dad actually built a Heathkit television. He built the whole television from a kit. And I built a Morse code keyboard. I can't remember the model number. I know it started with HD, Hotel Delta. At any rate, built that one. I still have that to this day. And I wish I never sold my old Heathkits, but when you're poor and you're a kid, you need to sell one piece of electronics equipment as a ham radio guy to get the next piece you need. So, but I still have the keyboard to this day. Don't use it anymore, but it still works. What a quality piece of equipment, too. All the components were quality components. And I, of course, went on to be an electronics tech and an electrical tech, so had some skills. And I built the keyboard later in my life. But what a fantastic piece of equipment. and I still have it to this day. So the on mention is Heathkit, and I wish they would come back in some way, shape, or form, but I guess it's a bygone era, right? The other on mention is Sam Goody, and I penciled underneath Sam Goody, Harmony Hut. And this was a ritual for us, Harry and I particularly. And I don't know if there was a Sam Goody in your neighborhoods or a Harmony Hut, and they were in the Willowbrook Mall. And Sam Goody was primarily a music retailer, vinyl, cassette tapes, and then 8-track tapes. And they also sold some musical instruments. And anything music related, you go to Sam Goody. And when a new record dropped, there was a record store in Ridgewood, New Jersey when I was older on Main Street, Ridgewood Ave, I think. And I would stop. I remember I bought Out of the Blue by ELO from that retailer. But most of the other time, we went to Harmony Hut or Sam Goody. And they would have all the records, all the vinyl, all the new releases would be on a rack. And there'd be sheet music there, and Harry and I played, Harry played the banjo, I played some guitar, and bought a guitar there, and oh, boy, I miss that. Oh, my gosh, I miss just browsing the aisles, flipping through your favorite band. They had little, like, tabs, and you'd go to your favorite band and flip through the releases and pony up the dough and buy something. And I guess, once more the internet pushed them out. But so those are my on mentions, just really emotional to think about. Heathkit and also Sam Goody, and got a label Harmony Hut in there. Number 5 on my list is Toys R Us. And I think Toys R Us came back in some way, shape, or form. Maybe they're inside another big retailer like Macy's or something. I don't know. But Toys R Us, to me, especially at Christmas time, shopping for the kids, shopping for nephews and nieces, and just browsing the aisles was fantastic. It was, even if you didn't have some extra money to buy the kiddies some toys, you take them there and let them wander up the aisles, wide-eyed. And you make a mental note or a list of everything they like. Sometimes they cry and moan. You ended up ponying up the dough to buy at any rate. But, what happened? Where'd they go? They were around forever. And maybe that's what happened. When these retailers are around forever, they eventually fade away if they don't change the business model or the internet competition. But going to Toys R Us was kind of almost like an adventure, like an outing, like a Sunday afternoon after church. We'd saddle up and go and wander through the Toys R Us and look at all the fantastic stuff going on. And the aisles were laid out nice. The store was laid out nice. It was definitely a family outing. And at Christmas time, of course, it was extra special because, that's where Santa Claus shops. It's all gone. So number 5 on my emotional list of retailers that have disappeared is Toys R Us. And number 4, maybe it goes back to the on mention with Heathkit, but of course it's a different type of retailer, is a Radio Shack. And for me, as a radio guy, an electronics guy, and a gizmo guy, Radio Shack was like the go-to place, right? And even if you weren't into the ham radio or CB or whatever, you could go there and get, cassette tape recorders. You could get a stereo set. You could get speakers. You could get anything electronics, gizmos and gadgets, right? Shortwave radios, AM, FM radios, whatever was the coolest, shiniest little electronic gizmo was there. And for me, being a guy that could get down into the component level on electronics, I would go there to buy components, transistors, capacitors, resistors, little handy boxes for my projects, and all the electronic components that you needed to build stuff. And they had TV antennas and shortwave radio antennas and coaxial cable and wire and all that. It was a Radio Shack. I'm a radio guy. And poof, then they got into the cell phones and They had their own brand, Realistic, right? Realistic was the Radio Shack brand, and they put out some fantastic radios, shortwave radios, CB radios was the go-to place. And before Radio Shack, for me, was Lafayette Radio Electronics. I remember torturing my poor old man, what he went through when I was a kid with my whims. And, when you're a kid, you incessantly drive your parents nuts until they finally break and cave. Oh, we got to go to Lafayette. Can you take me to Lafayette? Can you take me to Lafayette? No. I got to fix the car. I got to go food shopping. No. I got to work overtime. And finally, they cave. Dear mom would say, Paulie really wants to go to Radio Shack. Could you take him? And Saturday afternoon, my old man would roll me out. They were on Route 46 in Totowa, New Jersey, Lafayette Radio. And I walk in there as a radio kid, with my eyes wide open. And my goodness gracious, Lafayette had everything. Lafayette Radio Electronics. They had a cool catalog they would send like I think twice a year it would come out. And you just sit there in your chair, in your bed, laying there and, thumb through these magazines and look at all the fantastic radios and electronics. They had everything. Lafayette had everything. And they made their own brand. Some of those Lafayette CB radios, I had an HE, Hotel Echo 20T. 20 Tango was my first CB radio. An HE 20T Lafayette. And they were quality radio components in there and quality electronics equipment. And they had everything. And poof, they disappeared. I think their headquarters were on Syosset in Long Island. And ironically, later in my life, Circuit City, the electronics retailer, ended up being a very pivotal company in my life because they ended up in my primary source of income actually being the facility guy for their corporate headquarters, their point-of-sale data center, and that's a whole different story. The Circuit City bought Lafayette Radio and kept some of the stores open, and eventually they faded away entirely. So, and I think Radio Shack, I see some ads, these companies buy these brand names and they try to resurrect them as internet, not brick and mortar, but as internet shopping sites. And Radio Shack is popping up now and then. I always had a Radio Shack weather cube. It was a little black cube with a silver button on the top with a telescoping antenna came out. And when you wanted to check the weather, you pushed the little silver button thing, and the National Weather Service would come bombing in and tell you the weather without the sensationalization. So there you go. So number 4 is a Radio Shack with a little slash and a little mention of Lafayette Radio Electronics. And number 3 on the rated list of the most missed defunct retailers is Blockbuster. I think with Blockbuster, you can kind of loop in the local video store, the video rental store. But wow. And it wasn't just a place where you went and rented movies and you got entertainment for the weekend or whatever. It was very much like I mentioned at Toys R Us, an experience, an adventure. But you'd plan your week, right? And your family would say, or your friends would say, hey, we're going to have a movie weekend. Why don't you stop by the Blockbuster on Friday on your way home from work and pick up this movie and that movie and this movie, and maybe they had it in stock and maybe it was rented out. Maybe you got to get on a wait list, whatever's going on, but you went there and that joint was jammed, right? A line out the door sometimes. The cash register lines would be a mile long and you could buy popcorn there, microwave popcorn and sneaky snacks like you're going to the theater, right? And you'd wander up and down the aisles looking for the movies you wanted. And maybe they didn't have the movie that you set out. It was all rented out. All the copies were gone. But it was an experience. It was something to look forward to. It was kind of a way of life, actually. And you'd stop and get your movies, and you'd be all excited. You'd watch them and have to make sure they're rewound. You don't want to get a fine now. And you had your membership card. And it was, like I said, it was an experience. And you'd watch the movies and then bring them back the next week. And then maybe you'd figure it out for the next weekend. And poof, another retailer gone because of, I guess, advanced technology or superior technology. You can go on the big streaming services or whatever you want to subscribe to. And if you get the premium packages or the unlimited or pay extra money for the whatever, you can download movies of shows and anything you want and watch them. But I'm telling you, it's just not as fun. You just the anticipation and driving up and wandering up and down the aisles and seeing and saying, "Oh yeah, oh look at that! That's a replay of the Super Bowl III, the Jets winning the Super Bowl. Maybe I'll pick that up too." So it was just an experience that went away and gone, and it does invoke your emotions, and it does make you sad. Just the way of life, all those jobs and all those folks that had an exciting type of industry that they worked in. Yeah, it was retail. Sure, it was retail, but it was fun. And it was really fun to go there. So that's number 3, Blockbuster. And I'm going to say the local video rental store. Little mom and pop shops sprung up all over the place. I remember going to the North Haledon Video on High Mountain Road in North Haledon, New Jersey. So... goodness gracious. We're really waxing nostalgic here. Waxing nostalgic. Number 2 goes back to my traumatic experience with breaking my moccasin laces because it's Woolworths. And I guess Woolworths is the ultimate 5 and dime, right? The ultimate. And Woolworths was virtually on every downtown shopping market in America, I guess. And my Aunt Ada worked at the Woolworths in downtown Paterson, New Jersey. And we'd go down there Christmas time, or we'd take the number 14 bus and go down there on the weekend. Woolworths, I mean, anything you wanted, it was there. Anything. And the one in Paterson, on downtown Paterson, was huge, upstairs, downstairs. And they had the famous sandwich counter, right? The famous food counter with the stools. And you could get up there, and my old man would get a cup of coffee, and we'd get a soda or an ice cream, or if we were past lunch, we'd get a sandwich. And there it was, the food counter. Had everything, even a food counter. And anything you wanted. Woolworths, you talk about magical at Christmas time. It was absolutely magical. Reasonably priced. Quality stuff, some of the stuff, maybe not, but most of it was, the regular toys and games and clothes and knickknacks and paddywhacks and shoelaces, leather shoelaces, and sandwiches and ice cream too. And once more, this wasn't just a retailer. It was more of an experience and an adventure. You go down there at Christmas time and the store window have, the toys and the Christmas display and the train going around, and you'd stare through that, and it's just magical. And all that, of course, is gone now too. As is, like I mentioned in my opening prelude there, just the 5 and dime. I'm sure there are some, and maybe I'll research it after I finish this podcast, or people will send me some pictures and some notes of 5 and dimes that still exist here and there. And boy, and I often wonder why, like I lament all the time. I lamented about the free play radio stations and all these things that worked years ago. And folks think they won't work now. And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they won't work now. Maybe the competition on the internet is too great and a 5 and dime wouldn't work. It would just fade away. But something that was so successful for all these years, and then it just disappears. So any rate, sure miss Woolworths. So Woolworths / the neighborhood 5 and dime is my number 2 selection. And number one on the rated list of the most missed defunct retailers is Sears for Paulie. And Sears, poof, gone. I think there's maybe a handful left. I don't know. There's none around here. And I think the motto at one time was Sears has everything. And literally, that's true. And for me, growing up with my dad who fixed everything himself, one of the primary missions of Sears was tools. The Sears Craftsman, and the famous, if you bought it in 1940 and it broke, your ratchet set, you bring it back, they give you a new one. But Sears was much more than just going with the old man for tools and toolboxes. And I mean, they had everything. They literally, I bought work boots there, the die-hard work boots. They were some of the best work boots I ever had. I couldn't wear them out. And appliances, of course, washing machines, refrigerators, dryers, vacuum cleaners, everything. You want a pair of dungarees, you want work clothes, you want a winter coat, you want Christmas stuff, everything. And TVs, I bought a television set. I remember I bought a television set there at Sears, and Harry and I loaded it in a pickup truck and drove it back home. And it was the primary Sears for us was at the Willowbrook Mall in Wayne, New Jersey. And my goodness gracious, now that was an experience because you could go to Sears and get everything you needed. And of course, you had the famous Sears catalog. You had the Christmas catalog would come out, and it was a way of life. It was an experience. It was a event to get that catalog and look through it and dream about it, make a wish list. I mean, this was a American retailer, a way of life, an iconic retailer. And of course, Chicago, Illinois, the Sears Roebuck Tower and all that, gone, absolutely gone. And Sears, number one for me, is because I probably miss it the most, as much as I loved electronics and the Radio Shacks and the Heathkit and everything, because I knew I could go to Sears and just get anything I wanted, and it wouldn't cost me an arm and a leg. Might not be the fanciest shirt I ever bought or fanciest pair of shoes or fancy sneakers or whatever, but it worked for me. And I didn't have to wander around, and if I wanted to pick up a new screwdriver, I could pick it up at the same time. So Sears, I mean, I remember looking through old Sears catalogs. They sold houses. They actually had assembly kit houses, Sears Craftsman houses. And I knew a guy over in Midland Park, New Jersey, and he lived in a Sears kit house that his grandfather actually built. Old Dutch carpenter. He got the kit from Sears. It came in on the railroad, and they hauled it over to the site and put it on the foundation, built the house themselves from a Sears kit. That's just an amazing story. And I think they have these little houses now that have kits, right? But Sears is number one for me because, like I said, it was kind of one-stop shopping for everything. And I remember way back when I worked for the world-famous camera manufacturer, and we had this new software coming in. And to the old man's famous saying, newer doesn't mean better. And I remember I was in charge of the facility as well as security. So they had this new software, shipping, receiving, inventory, all this stuff. And they worked on it for years to get this software all going and get it all snappy. So in the middle of the night, they wanted to do a test before they actually implemented this new system. And I remember the warehouse manager, a very, very efficient young woman. She was top of her game, fantastic efficiency. And she was in charge of the project there, and she brought all the guys and gals and the warehouse people, and I had to open up the warehouses for security. And they did like a mock run shipment of the new software to test it before they actually went live, and nothing worked. I should say nothing. It had a lot of bugs in it, and she was so disappointed. And she said, Paulie, Sears, the old Sears, was the most amazing and most efficient shipping warehouse operation ever created. And they use pads and pencils. And nobody's ever beaten their shipping records or beaten their errors on production shipping in the warehouse business. And they use pads and pencils. But I can imagine, I mean, the Sears catalog was like War and Peace, right? It was a big giant catalog. And, how did you keep track of all that? They didn't have all that technology, right? Amazing operation. So there we go. On the heels of all the emotions, because of Jeffrey mentioning hockey sticks in the North Halden 5 and 10, and then me breaking my leather laces on my moccasins and can't find a replacement locally, I come up with this rated. And I miss all these. So a recap on the rated. Honorable mention is Heathkit, and the record store is Sam Goody, Harmony Hut. Number 5 that we miss is Toys R Us. Number 4 is Radio Shack with a little side mention to Lafayette Radio in Circuit City. Number 3 is Blockbuster and the local video rental folks. Number 2 is Woolworths and the local 5 and dime. And number 1 is Sears. And how about that? And I know the video will touch the musical wizard, the great Jeff. And Jeff, I'm so happy. We're all so happy you're feeling better. And I know Jeff has a little experience in the old video rental, and he shared some really cool stories with me over the years. So I know that one will really hit home with the great Jeff. And Jeff, we're just thrilled you're feeling better. So I did mention that I've been given a spin here over the weekend, this busy weekend. And this comes from a recommendation on I guess it was the mailbag. And I might just rate this one, but this artist doesn't have a lot of music out there. It's a young woman named Allison Sudol. And she goes by the moniker, well, she dropped it. Her initial records were under the moniker of A Fine Frenzy, which comes from Shakespeare. And then she kind of got out of music a little bit and had an acting career and everything. And now she's come back to record under her own name, Allison Sudol. So I've been spinning some of her records, and it's kind of poppy and indie and unusual. And I've been enjoying it. So we're going to get a little deeper into A Fine Frenzy / Allison Sudol, and maybe, just maybe, she'll make the rated cut for a future Paulie podcast. Just maybe. But I hope you enjoyed this deep dive into nostalgia and all the emotions with the hockey teams winning these gold medals and all the memories of Geyer Street Gardens and hockey and all the things that are going on. And we got into the retailers that have disappeared. And I'm sure you have your own favorite real retailers, maybe somewhere on this list, maybe not. But we're very happy that you joined us for this podcast. And hey, yeah, what do I know? I'm just a guy from Paterson, New Jersey. So thank you so much for tuning in. And hey, please be kind, be gentle, be very tolerant. Remember, kindness is for free. Spread it around as much as you can. It can only make this world a better place. So if the big storm's heading your way, then hunker down, be safe. And remember, snow melts. Hey, we'll see you next time. Thank you so much. Bye-bye for now.